Come on, Jolie. Hello, and welcome to Marvin Gardens January. Yes, and as is typical, I picked the first opportunity to do the garden video during a snowfall. And this is not typical for January of 2019. In fact, it's continued to just be wet for the most part. Had a lot of rain, a lot of milder than normal temperatures, but we've had we're going to have a very cold snap in the next 2 days, getting down into the single digits in the morning and only into the teens during the day. But right now we're just having a nice gentle snowfall, as you can see by around here and next door neighbors. It's quite the delightful scene. We haven't accumulated very much. We may get 1 to 3 inches, I think they said, but they also said it was going to start as rain, and it did not do that. We didn't have any rain. But not really much to show you in the garden, other than how pretty it is when it's snowing. In fact, that guy, if you may recall, is a little cauliflower plant that still hasn't quite died yet. Oh, here comes Jolie. Hi, Jolie. Jolie likes the snow pretty much. Frankie doesn't care for it, but he's rummaging around in the compost heap, so that's keeping him happy. Anyway, nothing else in this bed except for the kale that I also I left a couple of small plants in, really just for the fun of it, to see if maybe January, February I could actually harvest some kale. We still have plenty inside from the fall harvest. The little pet memorial area here is just looking peaceful with a little layer of snow, which our little cement toxin doesn't mind at all. Anyway, so that's all in bed one. The only thing that's changed in these January weeks is that I've continued to be adding a fair amount of manure from the local, one of the local ranches, I guess you could call it. And the dogs, I usually chase them out of there, but right now I can't yell at them because I'm videoing, so so they're having a real treat, so to speak. Even the solar panels look pretty with the snow on them, although that does cut into the production a little bit until it slides off again, which it does pretty quickly as soon as the temperature comes up. And this, as you may recall from last month, is a row of broccoli, which also had not produced heads but had not completely died yet, and that's still the case. Don't know if we'll get anything, but thought I'd leave it there just in case. And under this this layer of hay here is our carrots, and I think I pulled one last month while I was shooting the video. And they're still good under there, I'm pretty sure. And there again, left them in just for the fun of harvesting. in the winter months, because you certainly can. And of course the greenhouse looks very nice, dusted with snow as it is. Jolie likes the snow so much she even left the manure pile. I mean the compost heap. So that's kind of nice. What else to show you, really? Not much. But it is always a pretty scene here at the manor when the snow is falling, especially when it's a gentle snowfall. Oh, where you going, Jolie? My goodness. Got all excited about something? Afraid I was going to leave without you? I will say that the seed catalog is here, and typically I like to order my seeds in January, but if it slips into February, that's no big deal. So right now I'm just thinking about the stuff that I want to grow, and I am going to avoid as much as possible the kind of high starch vegetables, corn, potatoes, sweet potatoes, stuff like that, and instead I'm going to be doing vegetables that are basically friendly to a ketogenic diet, because I've sort of been on that for almost a year now, and a little too much information, but it has helped with my glucose so much that I technically am no longer a type 2 diabetic. So I'm going to continue as long as those numbers are good, and so I want to grow vegetables, obviously, that are at least keto friendly and are not so packed full of carbs. And luckily, those acceptable vegetables include summer squash, and as I recently found out, winter squash, and carrots and beets. Of course, they all contain some carbs, so you have to keep in mind portion control and ratios and all that good stuff. But now I'm really boring you to death, and so I won't anymore. But that's one of the factors that's going into my selection of vegetables to grow this year, and in particular the squash, which I thought pumpkin and squash were not keto friendly because they were too starchy, but they're not as bad. And as you may recall, I had or typically have trouble with squash, summer and winter squash, with pests and mold, mildew, that sort of thing. And I read somewhere that one way to combat those diseases and pests is to actually grow your cucurbits, or your squash in this case, actually in an enclosure, a greenhouse type of thing that's also blocked with screening to keep insects out. And you also don't water from above. You put down drip watering of some sort. And so that's what I'm going to try. I found a very inexpensive greenhouse to put up, and it's and we'll just see how hard it is to do that, and whether it does in fact help remove the as much susceptibility to disease and pest problems, and diseases that come from pest problems. So we'll see. So like I say, still deciding on what I'm going to grow, where I'm going to grow it, and then ordering the seeds for same, and And that's kind of where we're at right now. And as you can see, everything looks pretty wintry around here, and especially the pond, frozen over for the most part, except for the waterfall and right below the waterfall. The fish, I did check on them a little while ago, and they're doing fine. So it's kind of a typical January day here, and atypical but always welcome little snowstorm to shoot the video on. But that's going to do it. And so hope everybody's having a good New Year so far. We are here. Just taking down the Christmas stuff. I always keep it up pretty late. But the lights are still on outside. I figure that's acceptable for a while yet, at least into February, when there's still prospects of snow. And there goes a salter down the road, so they're trying to keep the roads navigable. But that's going to do it. Again, Marvin Gardens, January 2019, and in fact, that makes it the first of the 2019 Marvin Gardens videos. So, very nice and peaceful today, and pretty, and everything that you kind of want winter to be. But unfortunately, it's not as common and typical as we'd like as you go day by day. But that's going to do it. Like I say, I'm, as is my typical self, rambling and rambling. Here comes Frankie boy. But that's going to do it. And we'll see you next month in February, where maybe it'll even be snowier. Who knows? But bye, y'all. Have a good one. Okay, boy, you ready to go inside? You're a good boy. How shall he get in? Oh, and this is what it looked like a couple of days later, after the polar vortex came down for a visit. Everything's frozen over, and we got a couple inches of snow, and the coldest morning it got down to 2.6 below zero air temperature. And the wind chills were insane. So, welcome to January.